Alrighty. Um, my battery ran out, so this is the second one. I will say this compression here is instantly like making me quite lightheaded in a way that is, I can tell, is because of spinal contraction. So I'm going through it easy. I don't want to overdo it. It makes me feel kind of dizzy. And almost like I'm hanging upside down, which is that's the same thing. So I may pause this one, walk off scene, and take it off, and then repeat. But I'm going to do this, at least every day. It's instantly made the outside, so where my little toe is, that side of my foot, go like numb, and feel strange because of the alignment. It's making my legs and everything work properly in a way that it hasn't worked in a long time. So this is, and very simply, very like, it's not, this per se isn't painful. Nothing's in pain. It's the lightheadedness and things like that. And I think that is caused by spinal stuff. So I think you have to stay here. It feels almost like car sickness. You have to stay here, get comfortable, and rebalance out your spinal pressures. I'm guessing. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do, because it's instantly putting me into alignment with my hips and stuff. So it's almost like without that pressure, my whole body like kind of goes like, it's like constricting on itself. So that's interesting. I'll continue going. So basically, I think a lot of what I would want to tackle as far as sustainability is these cultural cul-de-sacs that we are surrounded by. Television is another one. My father, having grown up in a world without television, made it very clear at the changes that television brought. He himself was kind of captured by television, but still nowhere near to the extent that most people are now. And so I'm finding myself between my father and my interaction with this world, which is, see, this is what the patriarchy is. The patriarchy is sons listening to fathers, and the interplay between this. Obviously manifesting in all different social situations, but this is all it is. There is no ultimate patriarchy. There is a protection of the patriarchy because it's vitally important, because of the way that men interact and men have influence over their environments as opposed to women. This doesn't mean that we're trying to control women, and never have been. And in fact, in Western culture and my culture, it actually seems like the opposite. So yeah, it's these things that are perceived as absolute certainties, and that's where I see all the largest gains are to be had, is to chip away at the perceived certainties that are actually redetermined to be just cultural cul-de-sacs, and then design legislative protections in alignment with the historic precedent. So we cannot be forced to live in experimental systems and within experimental infrastructure when it is clearly failing, and it is it's failing in very short order. Down to like there were consistencies in cultural and social structures and traditions and cultures for a long period of time. Yeah, there were things that changed, like fashion changed, music changed, architecture changed a little bit. There's these certain constraints, and I find that because of this blind spot with this glut of this boomer generation and then their offspring, and like a rejection of history. So it became, that was what defined them, I think, was the rejection of history, and now they are the history. And I think that's, like, we just saw Diane Keaton died. Like, she's not that old. And it's like, this is what we're going to be bombarded with in the next decade, is actors and actresses and celebrities and people, well-known people, dying. And I think the boomers are going to kind of take that as like, oh, that's us. And it's like, there is no end of the line anymore. It's like, it's very clear now that we're in the dying days of the boomer generation. Maybe that's a decade or two, however long that's going to last. And it's time to tally up the costs. And that's what they did to their, and this, and it's just the only difference is that rather than trying to progress to some type of utopian future based on, technology, I am wanting to stabilize in historic back, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, to ground myself in certainty and stability. And I think tools like this, I think it's best to think of these tools as just an iteration rather than a new paradigm. So it's like, I'm just writing a letter, really. That's all I'm doing. I'm making a speech, but it's just distributed differently. I don't have to get in a car and go to a place and cut a ribbon, or, not that I would be cutting a ribbon, but that isn't needed. And that wasn't actually needed. There were just a lot of diplomacy and a lot of business, a lot of things was done with letters and seals and things, and this is no different. So it just is, it's a higher fidelity. So I can communicate more in this paradigm with body language, with tonality, with all the things, all the wonders of humanity and the wonders of the English language. And so I'm in my mind, I'm polishing down a historic precedent rather than experimenting in some type of new system. And I'm trying to find the pathway through on how to protect myself against an bloated, over-marketed, materialist, consumerist population. And there's going to have to be regions established in which, you can't bring your electric car, you can't bring your fucking iPhones, you can't bring, like, it's. So more importantly, I think you should be required to provide reasoning. If you need a vehicle for whatever, it's like, if your vehicle is majoritively for leisure, especially heavy vehicles, and you are not actually transporting materials or things around, it's like you should be paying the registration, the fuel costs, the maintenance, the licensing, all these things for the individuals in our communities and the businesses in our communities that are actually needing to transport things around. That's the only way that we can force redesigns of these absolutely atrocious fucking environments. While everyone's just free to drive around and do this stuff, it's like we're going to be left with these fucking deserts, which is all it is. It's like, this is just a desert that I live in. It's a suburban desert. It's, it's only navigable with motor vehicles. You can ride a bike around, but it's like, where are you going to go? You're not going anywhere. There's nowhere to actually be. There's no farms, there's no infrastructure, there's no food provided, there's nothing. There's just supermarkets, bottle shops, and fucking roads. And that isn't acceptable. I think being that this is a British colony, or started as a British colony, all it takes is we look at England. look at Great Britain as a whole, we look at the distribution of the land and the development of the historic development time period, and then project it here, and we'll see very quickly how negatively this automobile situation has affected the whole thing. I was watching a thing the other day that says that it's these urban environments are already to do with our taxation are being subsidized by regional areas and by the cities and by old townships and things like that, because they all the crime is here, all the drugs are here, all the intricate nitty gritty stuff like policing of these new digital restraining, all this stuff. It's like, this is all the cost of having a car-centric suburban model, and I'm not fucking paying the bill ever. My children aren't paying the bill. I've not benefited from this paradigm. I'm not living in a bloated, self-entitled pinnacle of my generation. I've, by circumstances unrelated to this, I've found myself in the same baseline situation as boomers, but yet have been forced to weather the exposure of this and to forge into the exposure of this completely unassisted by that cohort. And so we need to figure out ways to do this so that we can create pathways for the next generations to improve and to redesign and be free to do that, and actually be incentivized to do that, and to kind of grandfather out this model. And it doesn't mean that we go without. In a lot of cases, it's just simple little redesigns, and you end up having far more freedoms, and you can participate in the things that you want to do far easier, and you don't have the added burden of ownership and registrations and maintenance fees and all these things. And you make decisions about where you live, and perhaps there's a bit more fluidity in where you live. So you can say you might spend 10 years on the coast, you might spend 10 years in the country, you might spend 10 years in the city, and that will create fluidity in our marketplace of properties so that we can appropriately oxygenate the marketplace of residential properties, rather than the endpoint sold to these boomers at age, in their 20s and 30s. Oh, you get a car and a house and this is it in suburbia. And then we're left with, massive houses with one or two people in them. And this doesn't have the same effect as it would have if these individuals, say, went and established proper estates with acreage in regional areas. Then we'd be a lot better off. But they were sold this plastic age, automobile age, convenient dream that is cannibalistic. It is reliant. It is a Ponzi scheme. It's reliant on, subservience by the younger generations, which is what they thought they were rebelling against. But the economics are the same. It's like if these houses are costing this much, they could have gone out in the thing. Then they could have had their automobile. They perhaps would have had a farm. They would have provided their own whatever. They would have rejuvenated the regional areas. But instead, we're left with this monopoly board that is going to, there's a clear dumping point. It's like we're going to have, increasingly from now on, we are going to have masses of baby boomers passing away, and they're going to be leaving their property to their probably already indebted children and grandchildren, and it's going to flood the market with these properties, and there is nothing. And at the same time, I think we're going to have an increasing rejection of the whole system. So it's a nightmare. And we need ways to, or incentive structures to start to redesign areas. The problem is because they're all individual freehold, and because of the culture of Australia, it's very, very hard to kind of acquire whole regions big enough, and because the market's so inflated, it's not economically viable to do this. So there needs to be like a cultural incentive to do it, and this has to happen with a proper distribution of the costings and taxation onto those things. So it's like there's, if you live in suburbia, there should be a 10% surcharge on your taxes or something like that. And see, these are the types of things you cannot get this through politics, because you're never going to get voted in by saying that. There aren't enough people being dispossessed. The majority are in the suburbs, so the majority of the suburbs are getting the legislation they want, which is why we're just continuously sliding into hell. And so, yeah, we need committed local governments that are going to push this automobile cohort out, this bogan, cohort out, and create barriers for them to enter. I don't know. These are the types of things that are going to happen. But in my case, I'd say it's just going to pressure me to relocate to somewhere that has good infrastructure, that was developed pre-automobile, and to acquire that and to start the work there early, probably, with the same type level of exposure that I've experienced in this, because no one wants to know, no one cares. It's fucking boring and methodical, and it doesn't sell cars, it doesn't sell fucking handbags, it doesn't sell anything. So that's what we're left with. Right, I'm going to read 5 words to end this, because I feel very lightheaded, and then probably take this off, and I'll keep progress report of how I find it's going. Plastic. That's got to be the 15th or 20th time in the last year that I've turned to plastic. So tells me a few things. Let's go here. Wet. W-H-E-T. To sharpen a knife tool by grinding or friction. To make keen or eager, the act of wetting, something that wets an appetizer. I didn't know that it was W-H-E-T. So anyway. Elixir. An alchemical preparation formerly believed to be capable of transmuting base metals into gold, or of prolonging life. A panacea, a quintessence or absolute embodiment of anything. Cool. Oops, nothing. Stake. Oh no, streak. To be on a streak. Mining. To come across rock showing good color, opal. To mark with a streak or streaks. To dispose in the form of a streak or streaks. To become streaked. To flash or go rapidly like a streak of lightning. To run stark naked through a crowd of people in the street at a cricket match, etc. Okay, last word. Extend. To stretch out, draw out to the full length, to stretch, draw, or arrange a given direction so as to reach a particular point as a chord line of troops. Stretch. No, extend. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm extending my spine. And they were some interesting words, I think. They really were. They jumped out as me as really significant. So just a quick video, or a quick couple of videos to describe sustainability, how I will be approaching it, and in the next couple of decades, perhaps a little bit of a different sketch than what you might have been exposed to. So I hope it's been interesting. Thank you.